What this wounded light being revealed to me about Jesus' true teachings on forgiveness will shatter everything you've been taught about guilt and redemption. Before this story ends, you'll understand why carrying shame for your past mistakes is keeping you trapped in a prison of your own making. And you'll discover that what you call your greatest failure might actually be part of a divine plan you never could have imagined. If you're ready to hear truths about forgiveness that churches have misunderstood for 2,000 years, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell. Because what happened to Dr. Sarah Mitchell in a small Vermont town will show you that even the most unforgivable moments in your life are not what they seem. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I used to save lives. Then I destroyed them, or so I thought. Now, let me tell you how a being from another world showed me what Jesus really meant when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." October 17th, 2024, 11:47 p.m. I was driving home from my shift at Market Basket, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles had gone white. Another 8 hours of scanning baby formula, diapers, and prenatal vitamins. Another 8 hours of smiling at pregnant women while something inside me slowly died. The 2-lane highway through Vermont's woods was empty at this hour. Just me, the darkness, and the thoughts I could never escape. My small rental cabin was still 15 minutes away. 15 more minutes of remembering, of replaying that moment 6 years ago when everything fell apart. Then I saw the light. At first I thought it was a plane, but planes don't move like that. This light was massive, brilliant blue, and it was descending fast, too fast. It disappeared behind the tree line about half a mile ahead, and I heard a sound that I can only describe as thunder, mixed with the tearing of metal. The rational part of my brain, the part that used to be a skilled obstetrician, said to keep driving. Call 911. Let someone else handle it. But 6 years of working as a grocery store cashier had left me desperately hungry for any situation where my medical training might still matter. I pulled over, grabbed the first aid kit I still kept in my trunk, and headed into the woods. The forest was dense here, full of pine and maple trees that blocked out the moonlight, but I didn't need the moon. About 200 yards in, I saw a glow filtering through the branches, that same brilliant blue now pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. I pushed through the underbrush and stopped dead in my tracks. In a small clearing, surrounded by scorched earth and shattered tree branches, was something that couldn't exist. A craft. That's the only word that fit. It was roughly oval-shaped, about 20 feet long, with a surface that seemed to shift between silver and blue depending on how the light hit it. Part of it was crumpled, damaged from the impact. And lying next to it, partially illuminated by the craft's glow, was a being. She was tall. If she'd been standing, easily 7.5 feet tall. Her skin was smooth and silver gray, almost luminescent in the dim light. Her head was larger than a human's, with enormous almond-shaped eyes that were closed now, but I could see them moving beneath the lids. She wore something that looked like a seamless suit of the same color as her skin. Her left leg was bent at an unnatural angle. Green-tinted fluid, blood, I realized, was seeping from a gash along her side. Every instinct screamed at me to run. This was impossible. This was insane. She opened her eyes. They were completely black, but not empty. In those eyes, I saw depth, intelligence, and something else. Pain. The same kind of pain I'd seen in countless patients over the years. And then I heard her voice. Not with my ears, in my mind. "Please, help me." The words were clear, feminine, desperate, and in that moment, Dr. Sarah Mitchell,
The doctor I had been trying to bury for 6 years took over. I dropped to my knees beside her, my hands already assessing the injuries. Compound fracture of the left leg, significant lacerations, possible internal trauma. My first aid kit was pathetically inadequate for this, but it was something. "I'm a doctor," I said aloud, not knowing if she could hear me or only communicate telepathically. "I'm going to help you." Her enormous eyes focused on mine, and I felt something pass between us. Trust, relief, hope. "My vessel is damaged. I cannot repair it in this condition." "Forget the vessel," I said, already applying pressure to the worst of her wounds with gauze from my kit. "We need to stabilize you first. Can you move?" "With assistance." I looked at my small sedan parked on the distant highway, and then at this 7.5-foot extraterrestrial being with a broken leg. The logistics seemed impossible, but I'd learned something in my years as an obstetrician. When a life was at stake, you found a way. "I'm 3 miles from here. If I can get you to my car, I can treat you there, but I need to splint this leg first." I worked quickly, using branches and medical tape to create a crude splint. Her pain must have been extraordinary, but she made no sound. Instead, I felt waves of gratitude emanating from her consciousness to mine. 20 minutes later, using a combination of her remaining strength and my desperate determination, we made it to my car. I'd folded down the back seats, and she lay diagonally across the space, her feet pressed against one door, her head near the other. As I drove toward my cabin, hands shaking on the wheel, one thought kept circling through my mind. 6 years ago, I couldn't save a life when it mattered most. Maybe just maybe, tonight I could save one that should have been impossible. I didn't know yet that she hadn't crashed here by accident, that she had come specifically looking for me, that my entire life, the success, the catastrophic failure, the grinding years of penance had all been preparation for this moment. I didn't know that by mourning everything I thought I knew about guilt, forgiveness, and the nature of reality itself would be transformed forever.
Before I continue with what happened next, if stories like this resonate with you, stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about guilt, forgiveness, and Jesus' real teachings, subscribe to Stories of Light and click the bell. Thousands are already discovering these hidden truths. Don't miss what comes next in Sarah's journey. Now, let me tell you who Sarah really was before that October night.
My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and for 15 years, I brought life into this world. I graduated from Boston University Medical School at the top of my class, did my residency at Mass General. By 32, I was the head of obstetrics at Northern Vermont Medical Center, delivering an average of 200 babies a year. I was good at what I did. No, I was exceptional. My patients loved me. My colleagues respected me. My husband David was proud of me. I'd been raised Catholic, attended Mass every Sunday through college. I'd prayed before every difficult delivery, thanking God for guiding my hands. I truly believed I was doing His work, bringing His miracles into the world with every successful birth. And then came April 3rd, 2018, the day everything ended. Her name was Jessica Brennan, 28 years old, first pregnancy, 38 weeks along. She came in at 6 a.m. with her husband Tom, her contractions 5 minutes apart. Everything seemed normal. Textbook labor. I had 4 other patients that morning. Mrs. Chen in room 3 was having twins. Mrs. Rodriguez in room 5 was a high-risk pregnancy I was monitoring closely. It was a busy morning, but nothing I hadn't handled 100 times before. Jessica's labor progressed normally through the morning. By 2 p.m., she was at 8 centimeters. I checked on her, told her we'd probably have a baby by dinner time, then went to check Mrs. Rodriguez's latest blood work results. That's when the nurse paged me. Jessica's baby's heart rate was dropping. I ran to her room. The fetal monitor showed clear distress. The baby's heart rate had plummeted from 140 to 90 beats per minute. I did an immediate examination. The umbilical cord had wrapped around the baby's neck. Not uncommon, usually manageable, but this was tight. Every contraction was compressing the cord, cutting off the baby's oxygen supply. "We need to do an emergency C-section," I told Jessica and Tom, "right now." They wheeled her to the OR. We prepped for surgery. And here's where everything fell apart. As the nurses were setting up, I glanced at the chart they'd handed me. It was Mrs. Rodriguez's chart, not Jessica's. I saw the abnormal blood values, and my mind immediately started calculating what they meant for Mrs. Rodriguez's condition. For 45 seconds, 45 eternal seconds, I stood there reading the wrong patient's information while Jessica Brennan's baby continued to be strangled by his own umbilical cord. The OR nurse noticed. "Dr. Mitchell, that's the wrong chart." I looked up, looked down, felt my blood turn to ice as I realized what I'd done. "Get me the correct chart now, start the section." But those 45 seconds had been 45 seconds too long. We delivered the baby. A boy, 6 pounds, 12 ounces, but he wasn't breathing. His lips were blue. We initiated resuscitation immediately, got his heart beating, got him on a ventilator, rushed him to the NICU. But the damage was done. That 45 seconds of oxygen deprivation had caused severe brain damage. He lived for 12 hours, his tiny chest rising and falling with the ventilator's rhythm, while Jessica and Tom sat beside him, holding his impossibly small hands, praying for a miracle that never came. He died at 3:17 a.m. on April 4th. They named him Jacob. Jacob Thomas Brennan. Jessica had been sedated for the C-section, but the shock of what happened, the emergency, the frantic resuscitation, the 12 hours of hope followed by devastating loss, sent her body into crisis. She had a massive heart attack right there in the recovery room, 30 minutes after Jacob died. We worked on her for 18 minutes. She survived, but she was in a coma. She woke up 3 weeks later. I was there when she did. I'll never forget her eyes when she realized what had happened. Her baby was gone, and I was the reason. The hospital launched an immediate investigation. Tom Brennan filed a malpractice lawsuit. The state medical board opened their own inquiry. The facts were undeniable. I had been distracted, had looked at the wrong chart during a critical moment, and that distraction had cost precious seconds that made the difference between life and death. My lawyer argued that 45 seconds wouldn't have made a difference, that the cord compression had already been too severe, but the medical board didn't see it that way. Neither did the jury. Neither did I. I lost my medical license, lost the lawsuit paying the judgment, lost my house when we couldn't make the mortgage payments, and lost my husband, who looked at me one morning 6 months after the trial and said, "I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you destroy yourself." But the worst was yet to come. 2 years after Jacob's death, Tom Brennan came home from work to find Jessica in their bedroom. She'd taken an entire bottle of sleeping pills. The note she left simply said, "I can't live in a world without my baby. I'm going to be with Jacob now." When I heard about Jessica's death, something inside me simply stopped functioning. I wasn't just responsible for one death anymore. I was responsible for two, a baby and his mother. An entire family destroyed because I'd looked at the wrong piece of paper for 45 seconds. I left Massachusetts, drove north until I found a tiny town in Vermont where nobody knew me. Nobody knew my story. I got a job at Market Basket, working the evening shift when there were fewer customers, fewer chances to be recognized. My Catholic faith, which had once been the foundation of my life, crumbled completely. How could a loving God allow this? How could my prayers before surgery have meant anything if he let me make that fatal mistake? I'd begged him for forgiveness every single night for 6 years, kneeling beside my bed until my knees ached, weeping until I had no tears left. The silence was absolute. Heaven's doors, it seemed, were closed to murderers, even accidental ones. At 41 years old, I worked a cash register, scanned groceries, and went home to a cabin where I lived alone with my guilt. Every pregnant woman who came through my checkout line was a reminder. Every baby in a cart was an accusation. Every bottle of infant formula I scanned was a knife in my chest. I had given up on forgiveness. I didn't deserve it. Jacob Brennan died because of me. Jessica Brennan died because of me. And no amount of prayer, no amount of penance could ever change that. I had accepted that I would carry this weight until the day I died, that my hell wasn't waiting in some afterlife. I was already living in it. I had no idea that on an October night, driving home on a deserted highway, I was about to discover that everything I believed about guilt, about forgiveness, about life and death itself was wrong.
By the time I got her into my cabin, it was past midnight. The being, I still didn't know what to call her, was weakening. The green fluid seeping from her wounds had slowed, but I knew from years of medical training that could be a bad sign, not a good one. Severe blood loss often slowed before the body went into shock. I'd converted my small dining table into a makeshift examination area, covering it with clean sheets. As I helped her lie down, I felt that telepathic voice again. You were skilled at this, healing. It wasn't a question. Somehow, she knew. I was, I said, cutting away the damaged portion of her suit to better access the wounds. I'm not anymore. You are helping me now. This is different, I said, focusing on cleaning the lacerations. The wounds were deep but clean-edged. Whatever had caused them had been sharp. You're not human. I don't know your physiology. I'm working blind here. Your hands remember. They are guided by something deeper than knowledge. I wanted to argue, but she was right. My hands did remember. The muscle memory of 15 years of practice was taking over, assessing, prioritizing, treating. I found myself falling into that old focused state where nothing existed except the patient and the problem. I used butterfly bandages to close the worst of the lacerations, applied antibiotic ointment, though I had no idea if earth bacteria could even affect her, wrapped her torso in clean gauze. The broken leg was more complex. I'd need proper supplies to set it correctly. As I worked, I kept expecting her to lose consciousness from the pain, but those large, dark eyes remained focused on me, and I felt something emanating from her. Not just gratitude, but a profound calm. "What do I call you?" I asked, securing the last bandage. "My designation in your language would be difficult. You may call me Lyra." "Lyra," I repeated. It was beautiful. "Why did you crash here? What happened?" "My vessel experienced a systems failure while passing through your atmosphere. I was attempting to reach a safe landing zone when I lost control." I pulled up a chair, suddenly exhausted. "You're lucky I came along, though I'm probably the worst person in the world to be someone's doctor right now." "You are precisely the right person. There are no accidents, Sarah." The use of my name startled me. "How do you know my name?" "I have been observing you. Not just tonight. For some time. A chill ran down my spine. Observing me? Why? Lyra attempted to sit up, winced, then settled back down. Because you are important. Because your journey of suffering has prepared you for something greater. Because you carry a wound that medicine cannot heal, and you have been searching for answers in all the wrong places. I don't understand. You will. But first, you must answer a question. Why did you help me? I started to give a simple answer. Because she was hurt. Because I'm a doctor. But Lyra's dark eyes seemed to see right through me. Because, I finally said, voice breaking, because 6 years ago I failed to save someone when it mattered most. 2 people, actually, and I've been trying to atone for that ever since. I thought maybe if I could save you, it would balance the scales somehow. And if I told you that the scales were never unbalanced, that what you perceive as your greatest failure was actually part of a much larger plan that you could not possibly have understood? I'd say you're wrong, I said flatly. A baby died because I was careless. Her mother killed herself because I destroyed her family. Those are facts, not perceptions. Facts without context. Truth without understanding. Lyra's telepathic voice carried something I hadn't expected. Compassion. The being you call Jesus understood this. When he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," he was revealing a profound truth about the nature of reality. Don't, I warned. Don't bring Jesus into this. I prayed to him for 6 years. He never answered. He has been answering. You have not been listening. You have been speaking to him from a frequency of guilt and shame, and from that frequency you cannot hear the response. I don't know what that means. You will. Lyra disclosed her eyes briefly, and I could sense her gathering strength. I did not crash here by accident, Sarah. I came to find you. To show you what your churches have hidden, what religions have misunderstood. To teach you what Jesus really taught about forgiveness, about the nature of life and death, about why your 45-second mistake was never a mistake at all. I stared at her, my entire worldview teetering on the edge of collapse. That's impossible. Is it? You are treating an extraterrestrial being in your cabin. You are having a telepathic conversation. Your definition of impossible has already been shattered. What I offer you now is the shattering of something even more fundamental. Your belief in your own guilt.
I spent the next hour monitoring Lyra's condition, checking her wounds, making sure the bandages were holding. She needed rest, I could sense that. But every time I suggested she sleep, I felt her consciousness reaching out to mine. We must talk first. There are things you need to understand. You're injured, I protested. You need to conserve your strength. My physical form is healing, but your spiritual form has been wounded for 6 years. That injury is more urgent. I sat down beside the makeshift examination table, exhausted and confused. I don't understand any of this. Why you? Why me? Why now? Because you have been praying wrong for 6 years, and it is time you learned the truth. Praying wrong? I felt a flash of anger. I begged God for forgiveness every single night. I've done everything the church taught me. If that's wrong, then you have been operating from the frequency of lack, Lyra interrupted gently. Every prayer has been, "Please forgive me. I am unworthy. I am guilty. I am broken." And so you have manifested exactly that. Unworthiness, guilt, brokenness. You have been confirming your own suffering with every word. Because I am guilty. I killed a baby. Did you intend to harm that child? Of course not. Did you intentionally look at the wrong chart, knowing it would cause a delay? No, it was an accident, a moment of distraction. Then you did not kill anyone. You were present during a transition that was already written into that soul's journey. I stood up, pacing. That's insane. You're saying Jacob Brennan was meant to die? That it was predetermined? Not predetermined, pre-agreed. There's a profound difference. Lyra's eyes closed briefly, and suddenly I felt images flooding into my mind. Not words, but direct knowledge transfer, understanding downloaded straight into my consciousness. I saw Jacob's soul before his birth, existing in a realm of pure light and consciousness. I saw him in conference with other beings, including Jessica and Tom, his future parents. I saw them discussing, planning, choosing the circumstances of his brief incarnation. He chose 12 hours, Lyra transmitted. His soul wanted a brief physical experience, enough to touch his parents' lives, to set certain events in motion, but not a full lifetime. He came to teach through his transition, not through his living. I couldn't finish the sentence. My entire body was shaking. And Jessica, Lyra continued, agreed to be part of this teaching. She knew before incarnation that she would experience profound loss, that it would lead her to her own transition 2 years later. This was not forced upon her. This was chosen. Why? Why would anyone choose that kind of suffering? Because souls evolve through experience. Through joy, yes, but also through contrast, through loss, through the full spectrum of human emotion. Jessica's soul wanted to experience the depth of a mother's love and the profundity of grief, and she wanted to teach others, including you, about the nature of attachment and letting go. And me? My voice was barely a whisper. What about me? Was I just a tool? Just some random instrument for their soul contracts? Not random. You also agreed. The room tilted. I had to sit down. Before you incarnated as Sarah Mitchell, Lyra transmitted, your soul knew this moment would come. You knew you would be the doctor present during Jacob's transition. You knew you would carry the weight of apparent guilt. You knew this suffering would break you open in preparation for a greater mission. What mission? To understand forgiveness at a level deeper than your churches teach. To learn that what you call sin is often just misunderstanding. To discover the God you've been begging for forgiveness doesn't see you as guilty at all, because guilt is a human construct that doesn't exist in higher consciousness. The churches have misunderstood Jesus completely. They transformed his teachings of empowerment into doctrines of shame and dependence. Jesus never taught that you were born sinful, that you needed to grovel for forgiveness, that some external deity was judging your every action. Then what did he teach? That you are divine consciousness having a human experience, that you are literally made of the same substance as what you call God, that the kingdom of heaven is not a distant place you go after death if you're good enough. It's a frequency of consciousness you can access right now, in this moment, when you release the low-frequency vibrations of guilt and shame. I felt tears streaming down my face. When Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do,"
He was revealing that all humans are operating from incomplete understanding. You don't know the full soul contracts in play. You don't see the bigger picture. You don't understand that what looks like tragedy from your limited three-dimensional perspective is actually perfect divine choreography from a higher dimensional viewpoint. And if you truly knew, if you could see what he saw, you would understand there is nothing to forgive because nothing wrong has actually occurred. But the pain, my voice whispered, Jessica's pain, Tom's pain, my pain, that's real. Pain is real. Suffering is real. But suffering is what happens when pain meets resistance, when you tell yourself stories about what the pain means. The pain of loss is natural. The suffering of guilt is optional. Jessica is not suffering now. Jacob is not suffering now. Only you are suffering, Sarah, and only because you believe a story about yourself that has never been true.
Pause for a moment. What Lyra just revealed challenges 2,000 years of religious teaching. If this resonates with something deep inside you, leave a comment below. I'm ready for truth. Let's build a community of awakened souls. And subscribe to Stories of Light so you don't miss the next revelation. Now let me tell you about Sarah's 7 waves of doubt and resistance.
This is insane, I said, standing up and walking to the window. My hands were shaking. I'm having a breakdown. 6 years of guilt, the isolation, the stress. I finally snapped. You're probably not even real. I'm probably hallucinating right now, alone in my cabin, having a psychotic episode. Lyra's telepathic voice remained calm. You are not hallucinating. Your mind is protecting itself from information that challenges everything you have believed. This is natural. But look at your hands, Sarah. They are wrapped in my blood. Touch the bandages you applied to my wounds. This is not delusion. I looked down. My hands were indeed stained with that strange green fluid. The bandages on Lyra's torso were real, physical, solid. People can hallucinate touch, I argued weakly. They can hallucinate anything. Then how do you explain the crashed vessel in the woods? How do you explain that you carried a 7.5-foot being to your car? Your muscles remember that weight. Your back feels the strain of it. She was right. My back did ache. My arms were sore from supporting her weight. Even if you're real, I said, this is demonic deception. The Bible warns about false teachers in the last days. It says Satan appears as an angel of light. How do I know you're not here to lead me away from God? If I were here to deceive you, would I be teaching you about love, about forgiveness, about releasing the shame that is slowly destroying you? Would I be showing you how to access your own divine power instead of making you dependent on me? The devil can quote scripture. He can make evil sound good. Then test my teachings against Jesus' actual words. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," did he not mean that divinity resides in you? When he said, "You will do greater works than I have done," was he not revealing that his abilities are your abilities? When he touched the sick and they healed, was he not demonstrating that healing energy flows through human hands, including yours? The church has studied these things for 2,000 years, I said. Millions of theologians, saints, scholars, they've debated and analyzed every word of Scripture. Who are you to contradict centuries of religious tradition? I do not contradict Jesus. I contradict what was done to his teachings after his death. The church built an empire on incomplete truth, Sarah. They transformed his message of personal empowerment into doctrines of institutional dependence, because empowered people who understand their own divinity don't need priests, don't need confession, don't need the structures of religious control. That's conspiracy theory nonsense. Is it?
Your own history books document the councils where men voted on which books would be included in your Bible and which would be banned. They voted on whether Jesus was divine or human, as though truth was decided by majority rule. They suppressed the texts that spoke of Jesus' teaching reincarnation, of his travels to the East, of his actual message of self-realization, not from evil intention necessarily, but from fear that people couldn't handle the full truth. "If I accept this," I said, my voice breaking, "what does that make me? Everything I believed, everything I was taught, everything I built my life on, was it all lies? Was Sister Margaret at St. Catherine's lying to me? Was Father Tom? My parents?" "They taught you the truth they had access to. Incomplete truth is not the same as lies. Your childhood faith served you until it didn't. Now you need something deeper. Evolution is not betrayal, Sarah. It's growth." "But I based my whole career on serving God. I thought I was doing His work, bringing His miracles into the world. If that was based on misunderstanding..." "You were doing exactly what you were meant to do. Your career as a doctor was preparation. Every baby you delivered, every mother you helped, that was real service, real love, real healing. The understanding you had then was perfect for that time. The understanding I'm offering you now is perfect for this time." "Why me?" I demanded. "I'm nobody. A failed doctor working at a grocery store. Why would beings from across the galaxy come looking for me? It doesn't make sense." "Jesus did not choose kings and priests and the powerful. He chose fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes, the broken, the marginalized. Because those who have been shattered are open. Those who have suffered deeply are humble, and humility is the doorway to truth." "I'm not humble. I'm just destroyed." "Destruction precedes rebuilding. You could not have received these teachings 6 years ago when you were successful and confident and certain you understood how the world worked. You would have dismissed them. You needed to be broken open so that new light could enter." "If what you're telling me is true," I whispered, "then I've wasted 6 years. 6 years of suffering, of guilt, of praying for forgiveness I never needed. 6 years I could have been healing, helping people, living. How many people could I have touched in those 6 years if I'd known the truth?" "Those 6 years were not wasted. They were the crucible. They were your desert, your 40 days and nights, your Gethsemane. Jesus himself had to pass through the void of doubt and suffering before his resurrection. You are not separate from that pattern. You are living it." This was the moment when my carefully constructed walls finally crumbled completely. Jacob Brennan died terrified. I held him. I saw his little chest struggling to breathe. I watched the monitors go flat, and Jessica, she was so broken after he died, so utterly destroyed. She told me right before she slipped into the coma, she said, my baby, I never got to know him." And 2 years later, she swallowed those pills because the pain was too much. If what you're telling me is true, if this was all planned, all chosen, then I should have known. I should have been able to tell them it was okay, that death wasn't the end, that Jacob's soul was fine, but I couldn't because I didn't know. I failed them twice. Once by causing Jacob's death, and again by not being able to comfort Jessica with truth instead of empty religious platitudes. I was crying so hard I could barely breathe. Lyra reached out with one long silver hand and touched my arm. The moment her skin made contact with mine, I felt something surge through me. Not electricity, but something else. Love. Pure, unconditional, overwhelming love. "Jessica knows Mao," Lyra transmitted gently. Death is not the end, but a transition. And in that transition, many things become clear that were clouded in physical form. She understands now what you could not tell her then. And Sarah, listen to me carefully, she forgives you. More than that, she thanks you. That's impossible. She thanks you because your apparent mistake, your 45-second delay, allowed her to experience the full depth of a mother's love for her child before he transitioned. If Jacob had died in utero, she would never have held him, never have looked into his eyes, never have felt that love. Your delay gave her 12 hours of being a mother. That was a gift, not a crime. I collapsed against the table, my entire body shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than my lungs, from a place of pain I'd been carrying for so long that it had become part of my identity. And as I cried, Lyra held her hand on my arm, and I felt that impossible love flowing into me, beginning to feel the hollow places where guilt had lived.
Over the next 3 days, as Lyra's physical form healed with remarkable speed, she began to show me proof of what she'd been teaching. "Come here," she transmitted on the morning of the 3rd day. I'd been preparing breakfast, simple oatmeal and coffee, when I felt her calling me. I entered the living room where she was now able to sit up. Her leg was healing far faster than any human bone could. She gestured for me to sit in front of her. "I want to demonstrate something Jesus did constantly, though your scriptures barely mention it. He perceived the energy patterns of illness before people told him what was wrong. Let me show you." Lyra's large, dark eyes focused on me, and I felt something like a gentle scan moving through my body. Not invasive, but thorough. "Your left knee," she said. "Torn meniscus 3 years ago. You are carrying groceries, slipped on ice, you never had it properly treated, and now it causes pain when you kneel." I stared at her. That injury had happened during my first winter in Vermont. I'd never told anyone about it. "Your stomach, chronic inflammation, stress-induced. You have been living in a state of elevated cortisol for 6 years. Your digestive system is compromised." She was right. I'd been having stomach problems for years. "And here," she placed her hand near my chest without touching it. "Old scar tissue on your heart. Not from your guilt over Jacob from before. When you were 16, someone you loved deeply betrayed you, a boy. You have never fully processed that pain." Tears sprang to my eyes. David, my high school boyfriend who cheated on me with my best friend. I hadn't thought about that in decades. "How can you possibly know these things?" Every condition, every injury, every unhealed emotional wound creates a distinct energy signature. Jesus perceived these signatures in everyone he met. That is how he knew what was wrong before people told him what was wrong. He was reading their energetic field, just as I am reading yours. "Bring me a dying plant," Lyra requested the next morning. I looked around my sparse cabin. I'd never been good with houseplants, but there was a small jade plant on the windowsill that I'd been neglecting. Half its leaves were brown and wilted, and I'd been meaning to throw it out. I brought it to her. Lyra placed both of her long hands around the pot, not touching the plant itself, and closed her eyes. I watched, skeptical, expecting nothing. At first, nothing did happen. Then gradually, I noticed the brown leaves beginning to straighten out. The wilted stems started to firm up. Over the course of 15 minutes, as Lyra maintained her focus, the jade plant transformed. Brown areas turned green, new growth appeared at the tips. By the time she removed her hands, the jade plant looked healthier than it had in months. "This is what Jesus did constantly," Lyra transmitted. "He directed consciousness energy, what you might call love frequency, towards living systems, and they naturally realigned with their perfect state. The healing wasn't a miracle, it was the application of natural laws that your science hasn't discovered yet." On the 5th day, Lyra's leg was fully healed. She could walk now, though she moved carefully. She asked me to bring her a bowl of rice.
I did, wondering what possible demonstration could involve rice. She held her hands over the bowl and concentrated. At first, nothing happened. Then I saw it. New grains of rice materializing in the bowl. Not appearing instantly, but gradually forming, molecule by molecule. Over the course of 10 minutes, the amount of rice in the bowl tripled. "This is impossible," I whispered. "Matter can't be created from nothing. Thermodynamics." Matter is consciousness vibrating at a slow frequency. When you understand the relationship between thought and form, between intention and manifestation, molecular reorganization becomes possible. This is how Jesus multiplied loaves and fishes, not through supernatural intervention, but through the application of consciousness technology.
"Now I will teach you to do what I do," Lyra said. I laughed bitterly. "I'm not you, I'm just human." "Jesus was human. He said explicitly that you would do what he did, and greater works besides. The only difference between you and him is that he understood these principles, and you do not. Yet." She had me sit quietly. There was a small cut on my hand from slicing vegetables the day before. Nothing serious, but it stung. "Focus on that cut," Lyra instructed. "But do not think of it as a wound. Think of it as energy temporarily out of alignment with the pattern of perfect health that exists in your energetic blueprint. Love is not just emotion, Sarah. Love is the fundamental creative force of the universe. It is the energetic frequency that maintains all of creation. When you consciously direct this frequency, you accelerate healing." She walked me through a breathing technique, had me visualize golden light flowing through my hands. At first, I felt ridiculous. Then, I felt warmth building in my palms, real, physical warmth. "Now, direct that warmth to the cut. Don't force it, allow it." I held my warm palm over the cut and visualized it healing. The warmth intensified, and over the course of the next 10 minutes, I watched the cut close. Not instantly, this wasn't television magic, but noticeably, measurably faster than normal healing. When I pulled my hand away, the cut was gone. Only a faint pink line remained. "I did that?" My voice shook. "You activated principles that Jesus taught. This capacity exists in every human. He came to demonstrate that you do not need external saviors when you can access universal healing forces directly through your own consciousness." The final demonstration came unexpectedly. I had a photo on my fridge, one of the few personal items I'd kept. It showed my friend Rachel from medical school. We'd lost touch after my trial, and I'd heard through mutual friends that she'd been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. The last I'd heard, she could barely use her hands. Lyra noticed me looking at the photo. "You still care for her?" "Of course, but I haven't spoken to her in years. After everything happened, I couldn't face anyone from my old life." "Bring me the photograph." I did. Lyra held it between her palms, closed her eyes, and concentrated. I felt energy building in the room, a sensation like static electricity, but warmer, more alive. She held this position for 20 minutes before finally opening her eyes. "It is done." "What's done?" "The healing. Contact her tomorrow. Ask about her hands." I wanted to argue that it was impossible, that you couldn't heal someone from a photograph, from hundreds of miles away, but I'd already seen too much to dismiss it. The next day, my hands shaking, I sent Rachel an email. Just a simple, "How are you doing?" After 6 years of silence. She responded within an hour. "Sarah, I can't believe you're reaching out. Something incredible happened yesterday. My arthritis, it's gone, completely gone. The doctors are baffled. It's like a miracle.
My hands feel 20 years younger." I sat staring at the email, tears streaming down my face. "Distance healing," Lyra explained. "Jesus sent healing across distances constantly. Physical proximity is not required when working with consciousness energy. Intention transcends space." After all 5 demonstrations, I could no longer deny what I was witnessing. Every rational explanation had been exhausted. This was real. These abilities were real. And if they were real, then everything Lyra had told me about Jesus, about human potential, about the nature of reality itself, was true.
On the 7th day, Lyra sat me down for what she called the deeper teaching. "The consciousness you know as Jesus of Nazareth," she began, "had evolved far beyond the need for physical experience. He was what we call an ascended master, a being who had completed multiple evolutionary cycles across different worlds, different dimensions. He chose to descend from higher states of existence to help humanity awaken." "You're saying Jesus was, what, an alien?" "The term is limiting. Jesus is cosmic consciousness that chose to incarnate in human form. He was a starseed, a volunteer from the higher dimensions who agreed to take on the density and limitation of physical form to demonstrate what all humans can become." She showed me images in my mind, a council of luminous beings discussing Earth and its evolutionary state, a volunteer stepping forward, the consciousness that would become Jesus. He was not the only one. Throughout your history, there have been many such volunteers: the Buddha, Krishna, Lao Tzu, others whose names have been lost. All were advanced consciousnesses who came to teach, to demonstrate, to show humanity the next stage of evolution. But Christians say Jesus is the Son of God, the only Son. When Jesus said, "I and the Father are one," he was revealing the truth about all consciousness, not claiming exclusivity. Every being is one with Source. Every human is a child of God, meaning a fractal expression of divine consciousness. Jesus came to show you this truth, not to stand above you as the sole divine being. Jesus was never alone in his mission. He maintained constant telepathic communication with what you might call a cosmic council, an assembly of evolved consciousnesses from multiple civilizations, coordinating spiritual assistance for developing planets like Earth. His prayers were often not prayers in the way your religion understands them. They were interdimensional communication sessions. When he went into the desert for 40 days, he was conferring with his cosmic team, receiving guidance on how to teach beings of limited consciousness, how to work within the constraints of the religious and political systems of his time. The miracles were demonstrations performed with the support and guidance of this network. The resurrection itself was a carefully orchestrated event, designed to prove that consciousness continues beyond physical death. It was meant to shatter humanity's fear of death permanently. Instead, the Church turned it into a doctrine about Jesus' unique divinity, missing the entire point. "Now I will tell you the most difficult truth," Lyra transmitted, her voice gentle but unwavering. "Before you incarnated as Sarah Mitchell, your soul reviewed multiple life options. You saw the possibility of becoming a doctor. You saw the moment with Jacob Brennan. You saw the suffering that would follow. And you chose this path." "No." I stood up, backing away. "No one would choose that kind of pain." "Not the personality self, no. But the soul self understands that growth requires contrast. Your soul wanted to experience the full depth of human guilt so that it could then experience the liberation of true forgiveness. You wanted to understand mercy from the inside out. You couldn't teach others about releasing guilt if you hadn't carried that weight yourself. And Jacob? Jessica? Jacob's soul chose a brief incarnation. 12 hours was precisely what he needed, enough time to be held by his mother, to be loved, to feel the density of physical form, but not so long that he would forget the higher realms he came from. His soul is ancient, Sarah. It has lived hundreds of lifetimes. This was meant to be a quick touch-in, a brief taste of physical experience. Tears streamed down my face. And Jessica chose to lose him, to suffer that loss, and then take her own life? Jessica's soul chose a curriculum of attachment and release. She wanted to experience the intensity of a mother's love, and then the profundity of grief. She wanted to understand the full spectrum of human emotion in compressed time. Her suicide was not a failure. It was a planned exit point. She completed what she came to do and chose to return home. How can you call suicide planned? It's a sin. It is a choice. Not one I recommend, and one that often creates complications for the soul's journey, but a choice nonetheless. Jessica's higher self knew when it was time to leave. The method was her personality self's decision, influenced by pain and grief, but the timing was precise. After Jesus' death, those who understood his true teachings were systematically suppressed. The early church leaders, many of them well-intentioned but afraid, transformed his empowerment philosophy into a control mechanism. She showed me visions in my mind, a council of luminous beings discussing Earth and its evolutionary state, a volunteer stepping forward, the consciousness that would become Jesus. They took "the kingdom of God is within you" and changed it to "the kingdom of heaven is far away and you need us to get there." They took "you will do greater works than I have done" and changed it to "only Jesus could do miracles, you are helpless without him." They took "I and the Father are one" and changed it to "Jesus is uniquely divine, you are inherently sinful." Why? Because people who understand their own power do not need intermediaries. They do not pay tithes for salvation. They do not submit to religious authority. They do not follow rules out of fear. The church built an empire on keeping humanity ignorant of their own divine nature. Not from malice, necessarily, but from fear. Fear that people could not handle the truth, that society would collapse without hierarchical control.
Guilt is not what you think it is, Lyra transmitted. It is not a moral reality recognized by the universe. It is a frequency, a low, heavy vibration that keeps you trapped in cycles of suffering. When you pray from guilt, you are literally broadcasting the frequency of unworthiness, and the universe, which is a mirror, reflects that back to you as more experiences of unworthiness. So all my prayers were answered. You prayed, "I am guilty, I am unworthy, I am broken." And the universe gave you circumstances that confirmed that belief. You manifested 6 years of suffering because you believed you deserved it. The moment you change the frequency of your belief, the circumstances of your life will change to match. When Jesus taught forgiveness, Lyra said, he was not teaching you to grovel before an external God begging to be pardoned. He was teaching you to release the low-frequency vibrations of resentment and guilt that keep you locked in suffering. Forgiveness is not something you need to receive from outside. It is something you grant yourself by changing your frequency. But I heard people. You were present during events that were already written into those souls' journey. Jacob was always going to have a 12-hour life. Jessica was always going to transition 2 years after his death. The specific details, the exact mechanism, were fluid,
but the core events were agreed upon before any of you incarnated. You played the role you agreed to play. Now it is time to stop punishing yourself for reading the lines that were always in your script. Death is not what your religions have taught. It is not punishment. It is not failure. It is not the end. It is transition, a changing of form, a shedding of dense physical matter so that consciousness can return to the lighter frequencies of the higher dimensions. She showed me visions of what happens when someone dies. The consciousness lifting from the body like light rising from an extinguished candle. The sensation of expansion, freedom, homecoming. The review of the life just lived, not in judgment but in understanding. The reunion with soul family. The planning of the next incarnation. Jacob is not suffering. Jessica is not suffering. They are whole, complete, joyful. They watch you with love and compassion, wishing you could release the guilt you carry on their behalf. They do not need your suffering. They never did.
Something shifted in me during that conversation. I couldn't deny what I'd experienced. The demonstrations, the healing, the knowledge Lyra possessed. This wasn't delusion. This wasn't breakdown. This was real. "I can't deny this anymore," I whispered. "These aren't beliefs I'm choosing to adopt. These are truths I'm recognizing. Something deep inside me knows this is real." That night, after Lyra had gone to rest, I sat alone on my porch and finally allowed myself to feel everything I'd been suppressing for 6 years. And I cried. Not tears of sadness this time, but of relief. Relief so profound it felt like something inside me was physically breaking open, but breaking open to let light in, not to fall apart. All the years of feeling unworthy, powerless, abandoned by God, all of it had been based on misunderstanding. I wasn't broken. I had never been broken. I just hadn't known how to access what was always there. The next morning, I woke with the sunrise and tried what Lyra had taught me. I sat quietly, placed my hands over my heart, and focused on gratitude. Not gratitude that my guilt had been forgiven, but gratitude for perfect wholeness as if it already existed. Within minutes, I felt warmth spreading through my chest. The chronic tightness I had carried there for years, the physical manifestation of grief and guilt, began to ease. Over the next few days, I started noticing things I'd never seen before. When I looked at people at work, I began to see subtle fields of color around them. Auras, I realized. I could sense their emotional states before they spoke. I knew when my coworker Jenny was hiding pain behind her smile. I felt the anxiety radiating from the pregnant woman in line before she mentioned her worries. "My senses are opening," I told Lyra. "I'm perceiving things I never could before." "You always could. You just weren't paying attention. Now you are awake, and the world reveals its true nature." Small things started changing. My chronic stomach problems disappeared within a week. I slept deeply for the first time in years, with dreams that felt like they were teaching me things. An old friend reached out unexpectedly. The manager at Market Basket offered me better hours. Nothing dramatic, but everything was shifting, as if reality itself was rearranging to match my new frequency. I stopped begging. That's what changed most fundamentally. I stopped kneeling beside my bed, pleading for forgiveness, stopped treating God like a distant judge I had to appease. Instead, I started thanking. Thank you for perfect health. Thank you for abundance. Thank you for love. Thank you for the wisdom to see truth. And I actually felt, something responding. Not words, but a sense of being heard, of being held, of being loved by something vast and infinite. The hardest part was letting go of who I thought I was. For 6 years, my identity had been the doctor who killed the baby. Guilty, broken, unforgivable. Now I had to reconstruct myself. I am eternal consciousness, having a temporary human experience. I am a divine spark of the Creator, here to learn, grow, and demonstrate love. I am powerful beyond measure, connected to infinite intelligence. It felt like dying and being reborn. The old Sarah had to die so the true Sarah could emerge. On Lyra's final night in my cabin, she told me it was time for her to leave. Her vessel was repaired. Her mission here was complete. What do I do now? I asked, suddenly terrified of losing her. You live these truths. You embody what Jesus demonstrated. You return to healing, but in a new way. Not as a doctor treating bodies, but as a teacher awakening souls. I don't know how. You will learn. Your transformation will inspire others. That is your mission, not to preach, but to embody. People will notice something different about you. They will ask. And when they do, you will share what you have learned. After Lyra left, her vessel lifting silently into the night sky, disappearing among the stars, I sat in my cabin and made a vow. I would not go back to medicine the old way. I couldn't. But I would use everything I'd learned, both in medical school and from Lyra, to help people heal in a deeper way. I started small. At work, when pregnant women came through my line looking anxious, I would offer gentle words of comfort. Your baby is perfect. You are exactly where you need to be. And I would feel that healing frequency flowing through me to them. Slowly, women started coming back to my line specifically, started asking me questions, started sensing that something about me was different. Within 3 months, I'd started a small weekly gathering in my living room. Conversations on consciousness and healing, I called it. Just 5 or 6 women at first, then 10, then 15. I never mentioned the gray. I never tried to convince anyone of anything. I just shared what I'd learned about forgiveness, about frequency, about the true nature of Jesus' teachings. And people transformed. One woman released lifelong anger at her father. Another healed a chronic illness doctors couldn't explain. A third reconnected with her estranged daughter after 12 years. For the first time in 6 years, I felt truly alive. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just existing, but creating. Not just believing in God, but experiencing God as my own deepest self. The guilt was gone, completely gone. In its place, peace, purpose, and a profound sense of being exactly where I was meant to be, doing exactly what I came here to do.
6 months after Lyra left, my life looked nothing like it had before. I still worked at Market Basket. I needed to pay rent after all, but it had become something different. My checkout line was now known as the healing line. Women would wait extra time just to come through my register because they knew they'd leave feeling better than when they arrived. I'd learned to do what Lyra had shown me, send healing energy through simple touch. When I handed back change or a receipt, that brief contact was enough to transmit the frequency of love and wholeness. People didn't know what was happening consciously, but they felt it. There's something about you, customers would say. You're always so peaceful. How do you stay so calm? I would smile and say something simple. I learned that we're stronger than we think we are, that we're loved more than we know. Some would walk away satisfied with that answer. Others would linger, sensing there was more. Those were the ones I'd invite to the weekly gatherings.
The group had grown. We'd had to move from my living room to the community center. 30 people now came every Tuesday night. We'd sit in a circle, and I would share teachings about consciousness, about energy, about the real meaning behind Jesus' miracles. I never claimed to be a teacher or guru. I always positioned myself as a fellow student, someone who'd been given a gift of understanding and wanted to share it. The most profound changes happened in the people who'd been carrying guilt like I had. There was Margaret, a 63-year-old woman who'd been carrying guilt for 40 years over giving up a baby for adoption. After 3 sessions, she was able to understand that her choice had been part of that child's soul contract, that she'd actually given him a gift by choosing parents who could provide what she couldn't at 17. There was Robert, a former police officer who'd shot someone in the line of duty. 20 years later, he was still having nightmares. But when he understood that free will and soul contracts worked together, that the man he shot had chosen his exit point, Robert was able to lay down that burden. Story after story of people transforming, not because I healed them, but because I helped them remember their own power. I also reconnected with my past. I reached out to Tom Brennan, Jacob's father. It took tremendous courage, and I didn't tell him about Lyra or the cosmic truth about Jacob's soul contract. He wasn't ready for that. But I did tell him I'd found peace, that I'd learned to forgive myself, and that I hoped someday he could too. He wrote back, "I forgave you 3 years ago, Sarah. I just didn't know how to tell you. Jessica's death wasn't your fault. She was never the same after Jacob died. I think she just wanted to be with him. I've made peace with that. I'm glad you've made peace with yourself." That letter sits framed on my wall now. I also applied to get my medical license reinstated, not because I wanted to practice obstetrics again, but because I wanted to be able to legally offer health guidance. The board scheduled a hearing for next year. But the most unexpected change was internal. I'd spent 6 years being unable to look at babies without pain. Now every baby I saw was a miracle, not in the religious sense I'd once understood, but in the cosmic sense Lyra had shown me. Every baby was an ancient soul choosing to incarnate, choosing to forget their divine nature temporarily so they could experience the density and beauty of physical life. I could look at pregnant women and see the luminous light of the incoming soul hovering in their energy field. I could bless both mother and child silently, sending them love frequency, welcoming the new arrival to Earth. The grocery store had become my temple. The checkout counter had become my altar. And every transaction was an opportunity to transmit healing. I was doing exactly what Jesus had done, meeting people where they were, in ordinary moments, and offering them a glimpse of something extraordinary, the truth of their own divine nature.
Sarah Mitchell's journey reveals something you may have suspected but never had the courage to fully embrace. You have been carrying guilt that was never yours to carry. The churches, the religions, the institutions that claim to speak for God have kept you trapped in a cycle of shame and unworthiness. They taught you that you were born sinful, that you must constantly beg for forgiveness, that God is a distant judge, evaluating your worthiness. But what if they were wrong? What if Jesus came not to condemn you, but to show you what you really are? What if his miracles were demonstrations of abilities that exist within you? What if the kingdom of God is within you was meant literally? Sarah spent 6 years punishing herself for a 45-second mistake. She believed she had killed a baby and driven his mother to suicide. She carried that weight until it nearly destroyed her. Then she learned the truth, that life and death are not what we think they are.
that souls choose their journeys, including their exit points. That what looks like tragedy from our limited perspective is often perfect divine choreography from a higher dimensional viewpoint. She learned that guilt is not a moral reality recognized by the universe. It's a frequency, a vibration that keeps you trapped in suffering. And the moment you release that frequency, everything changes. Now you have a choice. You can close this video and return to the comfortable belief that you are powerless, that life happens to you, that God is distant and judgmental. That's safe. That's familiar. That's what everyone around you believes. Or you can do what Sarah did. You can start questioning the stories you've been told about guilt and unworthiness. You can begin treating prayer as alignment with your highest frequency, rather than desperate begging. You can start consciously sending love energy to everyone you encounter. You can awaken to your own divine nature. Leave a comment and tell me, have you been carrying guilt for something that you now realize might have been part of a larger plan? Have you ever experienced healing that defied medical explanation? Have you ever felt connected to something greater than yourself in a moment of deep prayer or meditation? Share your story below. You might discover you are not alone in these experiences. You might find that thousands of others are awakening to the same truths. And your story might be the catalyst that helps someone else remember who they really are. If you want more stories like this, stories that reveal the hidden truths about Jesus, consciousness, and human potential, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell. Because Sarah Mitchell isn't the only one who has encountered beings with these revelations. There are more stories, more witnesses, more evidence that everything you were taught about guilt and forgiveness is incomplete. Remember, Jesus' message was never about your unworthiness. It was always about your divinity. You are not a sinner begging for salvation. You are a divine being having a human experience. The only question is, are you ready to remember?